So now we're going to go through our brush menu. So these are textures. You can find them in fills as well. The only difference is obviously in fills, you're going to be able to tap and fill the area with the texture. In brush mode, you have more control with those textures. So let me show you what I mean. We'll use something that stands out. I find that these shells really show up, so we'll use these. I'll leave my opacity for the brush somewhat in the middle and just brush it on. So it just allows you to control, like maybe you don't want the whole object to have the shell design. Maybe you just want the belly of the dragon, for example. So it gives you the option to control that texture and placement of the texture. I just want to mention that when you are playing with the opacity, when you're pressing down really hard, even if the opacity is low, it's going to come up as if it was all the way up. So you want to keep in mind your brush pressure, how hard you're pressing down when your opacity is low, because it makes all the difference in the world how it displays. So for instance, the opacity is all the way up now, and I barely have to touch, and look how dark it is. But if I turn it down, same pressure, this is how it is naturally. So you can see the opacity has gone down quite a bit. But if I press really hard, it's gonna come around just like it was when the opacity was all the way up. So do keep in mind how hard you are pressing down with your pencil when you're using any of the brushes, because it does make a difference. So let's go over to the regular brushes, and one brush that we can kind of play around with for the background is watercolor. It's great for layering and just playing with and having fun with. Obviously, all the brushes are. Don't forget to play with your opacity, and it does make a difference on how bold the color is when you're applying at a low pressure. So that's one brush, that would be watercolor. There's circle, if you just want to make, circles. Will turn the opacity up here, and maybe some blue. So circle is kind of a fun brush to use, but you can also use it to draw with as well, which is kind of unique and interesting. There's some light brushes that create really cool light effects. So you can kind of make interesting glow and light effects. This brush is called Laser, and there's a bunch of new brushes that have been added that you can check out that have been added maybe in the last couple of years. Crayon is somewhat new, metallic touch-up. There's quite a few of them that have been recently added that you might want to check out. Weave is another one, which is really cool. You can add that interesting texture to grass and foliage. It's great for layering. So yeah, and don't forget, you can always adjust the opacity and the brush size. So play with the opacity, play with the brush size. It's gonna have different effects depending on how you're using the brushes. So yes, those are the brushes, brush menu. This is your base brush list. There's lots of them. And then if you want to move over onto your textures, here's a list of the textures that you can use and have more control with, as opposed to tapping and filling with them in the fill bar menu.